Functionalism and Modernization by Robert Merton and Talcott Parsons. Social differentiation, culture, and the secularization of Protestantism. This topic is a continuation of the report last Monday. With industrialization, social institutions, the economy, the family, religion, the legal system become more differentiated both internally and with respect to one another. They become more specialized in the societal functions they perform. Ibig sabihin, just as modern society evolves, its structure and institutions become more complex. Tinitignan nito ni Talcott Parsons at ng kanyang collaborator na si Niels Melzer bilang part ng Industrial Revolution on Family and Social Change. Structural differentiation emerged in part because of the need to redefine the non-economic functions. At kasabay ng pag-usbong ng panahon ay may mga bagay na nawawala at may mga bagay naman na umuusbong. At ito yung mga bagay na kinakailangan mag-exist kasi yun na yung adaptable sa environment at yun na yung kailangan na gamitin ng mga tao. Kasabay rin ng mga institutions na nag-evolve ang religion, which was heavily given an emphasis in this topic. Religion is differentiated from other social institutions and has its own relatively narrow functional specialization, which is worship, spiritual activities, or religious doctrine. Secularization naman is the thesis that religious institutions and religious authority decline with the increased modernization of and institutional differentiation in society. Hindi ibig sabihin nito yung disappearance ng religion as part of the normative and cultural system. Nangangahulugan lamang na the church has a narrower and more specific institutional function in our lives as it provides value system on the underlying function across all the institutional spheres. Parsons argues that a thorough differentiation always involves at the same time an allegiance to common values and norms. In terms of the ultimate trusteeship of these values, the Church is the higher authority. Dito na pumapasok yung Protestantism, which provides the common cultural reference point, at tinawag ito ni Talcott Parsons bilang Christianizing of secular society, which refers to the extension of the idea of the calling and individual responsibility beyond religious salvation and into every aspect of secular society. This requires an understanding of both secularism and Christianity, wherein Christianity or Christian values holds an increasingly influence on our society. In the modern world, Parsons argues that there are two layers of religious commitment. Una is the individual's denominational membership. In line with the secularization process, Parsons saw denominational attachment per se becoming less significant as society progressively modernized. So this suggests that as society modernizes, people become less attached to a specific religious identity. Hindi na halaga nito that they are becoming less religious, but rather that their religious identity become less tied to a particular branch of Christianity. Pangalawa naman, religion provides a common matrix of value commitment, values, broadly shared between denominations. So this forms a community which is based on morals. And religion provides a framework for understanding religion and commit to certain values despite denominations. Sa value orientations in a time of global social change, Parsons argue that as a moral and technical problem confronts modern society, there is all more need of values. For the first time in history, something approaching a world society is in process of emerging. For the first time in its history, Christianity is now involved in a deep confrontation with the major religious tradition of the Orient. Ibig sabihin that Christianity has adapted historically to the changes in the evolving structure of society. And also, it adapted to the societal challenges, embracing the tolerance on the value of across the social system. Emphasizing the centrality of the institutionalized norms and values in social actions, Parsons argued that there are many different kinds of value orientations that guides one's actions and behaviors. Ang pattern variables na ito, ginamit ni Talcott Parsons ang konsepto ng doctor-patient relationship to illustrate the major structure outlines of the medical system, also driven in part because he spent some of his time studying in Boston medical area system. Naniniwala rin siya na kapag physically ill ang isang tao, it could affect his function sa kanyang ginagampanan na role. una is universalistic versus particularistic. Kapag universalistic, our decisions and actions are guided by general um, rules, laws, or standard that applies to everyone equally or personal relationships or contexts. For example, doctor to patient relationship, student to professor, and even lawyer to client. Pangalawa naman, particularistic, decisions and actions are based on personal relationships. So, may involved na emotions dito. For example, parent-child relationships. Specificity versus diffuseness naman. Specificity from the word itself is specific. Ibig sabihin ng interaction ay limited lang sa kung ano lang yung role mo sa relationship between the two. Yun lang yung gagampanan mo. For example, pag pupunta tayo ng doktor, of course, ang um, goal lang naman natin is magpa-check kasi may nararamdaman tayo. At hindi naman tayo pupunta ng doktor just because we need love advice or financial advice. Sa diffuseness naman, interaction is broad and involves multiple aspects of a person's life. Extended na yung role na pwede mong sa interaction yung dalawa. Achievement versus ascription naman. Sa achievement, this is based on your merit, effort, kung paano mo na-achieve ang isang bagay or na-acquire mismo yung position or title mo. For example, sa doctor is you need to pass several examinations and demonstrate competence para masabing qualified ka talaga bilang doktor. Samantalang sa ascription naman, ito yung uncontrollable ng mga tao kasi it is based on your birth, even family background, age, gender, and such. Neutrality versus effectivity naman, neutrality are emotionally restrained at nakabase lang siya sa ginagampanan mong role. For example, as a doctor, you need to behave at all times as an applied scientist, as a behave scientist, and also to treat a problem, irrespectable kung gusto mo yung patient or not. Effectivity naman, these are actions guided by emotional expression. For example, ng effectivity is parent-child relationship. And lastly is self-orientation versus collectivity orientation. Sa self-orientation, a person primarily acts for personal gain or interest. Ito yung mga decisions and actions made because of your personal interest na sa tingin mo magiging advantageous sa part mo. Kasamantalang kapag collective orientation, ito yung mga decisions and actions that are consensus-oriented at tinitignan mo kung paano ito makakabuti para sa lahat.
So, Talcott Parsons uses 5 pattern variables to conceptualize the characteristics of modern society that sociologists refer to as the modernization theory. The modernization theory suggests that the societies or developing societies will inevitably and invariably follow the same linear progression from traditional to modern structures, with industrialized Western nation as the model. According to Parsons, yung mga system daw ng mga modern societies ay characterized sa kung anong posisyon nila sa 5 pattern variables. And then according to his analysis, the US and other societies na may mataas na degree of modernization ay nag-undergo sa democratization, industrialization, urbanization, and the expansion of the education, literacy, and the mass media, which can be described as favoring the norms or the 5 pattern variables. So first is the criteria of achievement over the ascription. Here, the modern society emphasizes achievement rather than the ascription. The success is based on the merit, education, and effort. Dito, people gain their social, political, and job status through their competence. Additionally, the modern society is democratic. For example, sa president, na-elect siya because of his qualification and leadership. Next is the universalistic versus the particularistic criteria. Here's yung modern society, ini-emphasize niya yung impersonal rules and general principles rather sa personal relationship. Yung modern societies, pinapalo niya yung universalistic criteria, meaning that the laws, policies, and values applies equally to all, regardless pa sa kanilang ethnicity, religion, and social class. While yung particularistic criteria naman, here yung special group ay nakakatanggap ng privilege based lamang sa kanilang identity. Third is the emotional neutrality versus the affectivity. Dito, yung modern society ay dinifferentiate yung institutional spheres and the relationship based sa personality rather than emotion. First, let's talk about emotional neutrality. Ito yung ating public life, which are the work, politics, or institutions. Dito, people are expected to be rational and objective and personal on their decision making. While sa affectivity naman, ito yung ating private life, which is the family and close friends, na yung emotional expression, personal attachment, and subjectivity ay ina-encourage. For example, sa traditional societies, yung work and family ay mixed together, wherein yung personal relationships and yung emotions natin ay naiimpluwensyahan yung work. While sa modern societies naman, nakahiwalay na yung work and family. So next is specific versus diffuse criteria. So modern society emphasizes the role specialization rather than general competence. So people must acquire specific skills and knowledge to succeed. The occupational roles, meaning that people are trained to particular tasks rather than having vague all-encompassing responsibilities. And in the past, people's opportunities are limited based on their race, gender, family background, and religion rather than their abilities. Sa modern societies naman, the success are based on their or determined by their skill and knowledge and effort rather than broad and inherited characteristics. Last is the self-orientation versus the collective orientation. So modern society emphasizes individual over communal interests, meaning that individuals make independent choices about their careers, marriage, and life path rather than following a traditional expectation based on their family, intensity, or religion. These mark a shift from traditional societies where life decisions are heavily influenced by traditional or collective expectations, such as inheriting family business and yung pamimili ng mapapangasawa. People are encouraged to follow their dreams and create their own path. Yung education and career choices nila are based on their individual talents and interests and not family tradition. While yung marriage naman is based on their personal compatibility rather than arranged by family or religious norms. Next is the American society prototype of modernization. So Talcott Parsons argued that American society represents the most advanced form of modernity and its values, achievement, universalism, specificity, emotional neutrality, and self-orientation that are essential for economic and social progress. However, his modernization theory sparked both support and criticism, particularly neo-Marxist scholars who saw it as ethnocentric and ignoring historical and cultural differences between nations. Parsons' theory or Parsons' model was ethnocentric as it assumes that American societies is the ideal and disregarding other development paths. It also ignores historical influences like colonialism because some countries were shaped by colonial rule, affecting their modernization process. It oversimplifies modernizations because not all nations modernize in the same way or at the same pace. Next is the uneven modernization and the concept of cultural lag, that not all societies modernize at the same speed. And the concept of Ogborn's cultural lag, which is the economic modernization, can happen faster than cultural change. Next is the stratification and inequality. Talcott Parsons argued that modern societies operate on the principle of achievement over the description. In other words, a person's social status should be based in their skills and education and work performance rather than their family background, gender, and race. He believed that the US was the most advanced modern society because it institutionalized values such as universalism, values in achievement, specificity, emotional neutrality, and the self-orientation. Although Parsons claimed that modern society reward merit, the American society has continued racial and gender inequalities that contradict his arguments. For instance, women and minorities have historically faced discriminations in education, wages, and employment, where in fact, even today, factors such as gender and race continue to influence opportunities, challenging Parsons' idea of meritocratic system. Parsons, along with Davis and Moore, viewed status differences as necessary for rewarding technical competence. According to this view, inequality serves a purpose because it motivates people to achieve higher levels of specialization and expertise. But these arguments ignore the reality that some people inherit advantages that allow them to succeed more easily than others. Parsons believed that modern societies separate family roles from work roles. Family focuses on emotions, relationships, and togetherness, while work is about achievement, performance, and individual success. Parsons argued that the sex role segregation or the distinction of roles for men and women in society was functionally necessary para ma-maintain yung social equilibrium. He believed that clearly defined roles, norms, and expectations for men and women prevented conflict and maintained social order. Parsons saw traditional gender roles and as breadwinners in the public sphere or the occupational sphere because they were perceived as rational, ambitious, and competitive, making them naturally suited for the public work, while women are in the private sphere or the domestic sphere because women are historically expected to focus on family and household responsibilities. Men are judged based on their career success, while women are judged based on their personal qualities because they were perceived as nurturing and provides emotional support. It was criticized by the women's movement, the publication of Betty Friedan's The Feminine Mystique, that highlighted the satisfaction and fulfillment experienced by many women confined to traditional domestic roles. It argued that its idea reinforced gender roles and then they pushed for equal career opportunities for women, challenging the idea that women should be confined to domestic roles. They also criticized Parsons for being too rigid and failing to recognize that gender roles would evolve over time. Next is the ongoing gender inequality that highlights how gender inequality persists even when the law promotes equality. Women continue to face challenges in leadership and workplace participation. They also experience the motherhood penalty where they are expected to prioritize childcare and household responsibilities that affects their careers. Additionally, the efforts to change the traditional gender roles often face resistance, leading to an anti-feminist backlash that slows progress toward true equality. The disequilibrating effects are the challenges that come with changing gender roles in the society. So first, in the workplace challenges, in the male-dominated jobs, women often face more sexual harassment as they enter spaces traditionally occupied by men. This makes it harder for them to strive professionally. Next is the emotional and logistical burden that even though more women are pursuing careers, they are still expected to handle most caregiving and household responsibilities. This creates stress and makes balancing work and family difficult. Last is the blurring of gender roles as traditional roles change. People struggle to adapt leading to resistance, confusion, and conflict within the society. Many people are uncomfortable with these shifts, which slows progress toward gender equality. Overall, this highlights how societal change can be disrupted and often leads to tension before true progress is achieved.
Robert Merton was born in 1910 in Philadelphia to a working-class Jewish immigrant family. After graduating from Temple University, he won a scholarship to Harvard where he studied under Parsons, and he was active in national and international professional associations, and like Parsons served as president of the American Sociological Association from 1956 to 1957 and died in 2003 at the age of 92. So, we will know how Robert Merton contributed to the society and the significant impact on the field of sociology. Middle range theory, pioneered by Robert Merton, is a sociological approach that focuses on developing theories that are more specific and testable than grand theories, aiming to bridge the gap between broad social theories and empirical research. So, unlike kay Talcott Parsons na mas malawak yung sakop nung tinatakal niyang theory, ay dito kay Merton ay mas specific and limited, wherein Merton emphasized that the main task should be the development of sociological theory that are applicable to limited ranges, wherein it addresses the particular problems or issues that can be studied and tested. So, an example is yung social class na kung saan may upper class, middle class, and lower class. So, paano natin malalaman yung based from empirical research yung classes nila? So, through socio-economic status na kung saan nakabase dito yung wealth, intelligence, education, and resources. So, na-bridge yung gap through the empirical data na kung saan it connects to broad social theories. Manifest functions and latent functions. For manifest functions, those objective consequences contributing to the adjustment or adaptation of the system which are intended and recognized. And for the latent functions, those objective consequences which are neither intended or recognized. So, madali nating madi-differentiate itong dalawa sapagkat dito sa manifest function ay observable effects or outcomes, wherein dito sa latent functions ay hidden effects or outcomes. So, ang example is school's purpose. So, for the manifest function, ang main purpose ng school ay i-educate ang mga student. And for the latent function ay isa na roon yung it promotes social interactions that can build friendships and relationships among peers. So, it is unintended. It is also hidden na kung saan it can significantly impact the society, wherein it shapes behaviors and relationships in ways that aren't immediately apparent. So, ayun nga, hindi siya visible unlike sa manifest function. For social consequences, all social actions can have multiple consequences, either for just some individuals, some subgroups, and for the whole society. So, alam naman natin na ang lahat ng action natin or even isang action natin ay makakaapekto kahit sa kaninong tao, even sa ating sarili, sa pangkaunting tao, or even sa maraming tao or for the whole society. And some of these consequences may not be anticipated as they were not intended to occur. So, an example is yung sa reading na may lugar sa New Jersey which is called Riverside na rundown factory town doon na pinipenalize yung mga employer na nag-hire ng illegal immigrants and yung mga homeowner na pinaparentahan yung mga immigrants. So, within a short interval of time, yung mga immigrant ay umaalis na sa lugar na yon kasi pinapaalis nga sila. So, karamihan sa mga immigrant ay galing pa sa South American countries. So, ayun, yung law ay obviously na para sa pagpapaalis sa mga illegal immigrants, but the unintended consequences ay yung mawawalan sila ng trabaho katulad ng pagiging hairdresser, nagtatrabaho sa restaurant and sa convenience store. Let's move on to functional consequences. It refers to the outcomes or effects that result from a particular action, condition, or event. So, an example is yung taong may physical impairment na kung saan may difficulty na sa pang-araw-araw niyang task na nagli-lead sa pagbabago ng lifestyle niya. So, understanding these consequences helps to identify areas that may require intervention or adjustment to improve overall efficiency and quality of life. So, dysfunctional consequences refer to the negative outcomes that arise when systems, behaviors, or relationships do not operate effectively. So, an example is yung sa workplace na kung saan mayroong poor communication na nagli-lead sa misunderstanding ng mga workers. So, of course, the consequences can create a cycle of problems na kung saan mahirap ng makipag-communicate yung isa sa isa or isa sa iba, mahirapan sila na i-achieve yung goal at maka-maintain ng harmony. Lastly, the irrelevant in a given societal context, wherein Merton emphasized that such irrelevancies could distract from understanding the essential components that maintain societal order and stability, highlighting the importance of focusing on what truly matters in a complex of social system. So, an example is yung may discussion yung prof and students. So, tinatakal nila ay about sa history, tapos may papasok na isang student na magkukwento about sa girlfriend or boyfriend niya. So, ang irrelevant kasi, hindi naman yun topic ng klase and madidistract yung ibang student sa pakikinig at hindi na maiintindihan kung ano yung dinidiscuss. Strain between culture and social culture. It occurs when the values, beliefs, and norms of a society conflict with the organized patterns of relationships and institutions that shape everyday life. So, sa mas madali nating maintindihan na nagkakaroon ng strain between culture and social structure kapag hindi sila nag-i-incline or nag-a-align sa isa't isa. So, an example ay yung sa immigrant communities na kung saan kapag yung mga immigrant ay mag-move sa panibagong country, of course, dala nila yung cultural values and traditions nila sa kanila. So, however, makaka-feel sila ng pressure sapagkat yung social structure ay bago para sa kanila na kung saan pinaprioritize yung different norms and expectations doon sa society na yon. So, nagkakaroon ng tension sa mga immigrant na of course i-maintain nila yung cultural identity nila as immigrants and while also adapting to the societal demands ng panibagong society. It leads to challenges, feelings of frustration, confusion, or deviance when individuals feel pressured to meet cultural goals but face obstacles within the social structure. So, let's move to Merton's typology. First, the conformist who accepts the cultural goals and society's approved means for their attainment. So, an example is yung may prof na may pinapagawa sa mga students at gagawin nila yung pinapagawa that can lead to their excellence. And the next one is the innovator who accepts the goals but find ways to achieve them. So, katulad din nung kanina, may pinapagawa yung prof and gagawin naman nila yun but through AI. So, ayun nga, naghahanap sila ng daan para maka-achieve ng excellence. the ritualist who, though rejecting the culturally sanctioned goals, nonetheless passively goes along with the behavior necessary to achieve those goals. So, dito sa ritualist, nire-reject yung academic ambition but ginagawa yung pinapagawa na gawain sa kanila. So the retreatist who opts out of both the goals and the goal behavior. An example ay yung student na walang interest sa academic work. Of course, wala na siyang ginagawa, hindi na siya nag-e-effort to do well in class. So lastly, the rebel who rejects the cultural goals and the institutionalized means but who substitutes new goals and means of his or her own. So an example ay yung may klase, ganon. Tapos, yung student ay hindi napapasok para makipagkita na lamang sa kanyang girlfriend or boyfriend. Parsons' legacy, varied directions. Of course, hindi naman natin mapagkakaila yung contribution and the significant impact nito sa society. So, Parsons' legacy primarily revolves around his contributions to sociology, wherein particular through his development of the structural functionalism theory. So, he emphasizes that the importance of understanding society as a complex system which are composed of various interrelated parts that work together to maintain stability and order. So by introducing the concepts like the social systems, roles, and norms, Parsons help shapes sociological research and thinking. Let's move to Niklas Luhmann, a German social theorist, was another of Parsons' students at Harvard. His systems theoretic approach offers a very sharp contrast to Parsons' own understanding of society as a social system and especially to the middle range type of functional analysis elaborated by Merton. So, while kay Parson ay nag-focus sa norms and values, na nagme-maintain ng social order sa society, kay Merton, hina-highlight naman niya yung functions of social structures in achieving societal goals. Kay Luhmann naman ay ina-argue niya na ang uh, social systems operate primarily through communication rather than through shared values or functions. So, Luhmann's approach is distinct from both Robert Merton and Talcott Parsons. So, because he emphasizes the complexity and autonomy of social systems, viewing society as a series of interconnected but self-referential systems. So when we say self-referential, it constantly refers back to itself and adapts based on its own internal logic rather than the external pressures. So, Luhmann also argues that the society should be understood as an independent system na nag-ooperate at kayang tumayo sa kanilang mga paa base sa mga rules and processes. So, meaning, instead of looking at this society through individual actions or events, kailangan nating tignan ito as a whole. Of course, where various parts interact and regulate themselves without needing outside influence. Jeffrey Alexander, representing the post-World War II baby boomer generation of influential sociologists. He was born in 1947 and an American sociologist who has been to the forefront of developing cultural sociology. The civil sphere is a world of values and institutions that generates the capacity for social criticism and democratic integration at the same time. Such a sphere relies on solidarity, on feelings for others whom we don't know but whom we respect out of principle. So, sinasabi ni Jeffrey Alexander na ang civil sphere ay parte na ng society na kung saan ay nag-share ng mga values and nagsusuporta sa democratic idea na inaalaw ang lahat para sa open discussion and to critique the social issues. Of course, it thrives on solidarity, meaning na ang individual ay nakakasense ng connection and respect sa ibang tao kahit hindi na nila ito kilala. So, the shared understanding fosters a community where everyone can contribute to the improvement and of the society and the promotion of democratic values. So, the civil sphere is bounded by the non-civil sphere by such world as the state, economy, religion, and family and community. So, it refers to the social interactions and activities that take place outside the formal structures of government, law, or civil society. So, of course, it includes the various aspects of everyday life, such as personal relationships, cultural expression, formal gatherings, and community activities that aren't regulated or organized by official institutions. So, ayun, ini-encompass niya yung mga family dynamics, friendships, neighborhood events, and cultural practices. So, of course, magre-reflect yung mga tao ron na sa mga connection and how they interact in their daily lives without the influence of formal authority or civil norms. So, ayun, ina-argue ni Jeffrey R. Alexander that it is often necessary for the civil to invade the non-civil in order to bring out the reforms that maintain democracy and achieve justice. So, the invasion occurs because civil groups highlight societal issues that need attention, prompting actions and reforms in the political realm. So, by doing so, they help the government to be accountable and ensure that the ideals of democracy like equality and fairness